whether it's the United States Constitution or the Canadian Constitution. It shows where there's a huge emphasis on freedom, on human rights because of what they endured. But guess what? Guess what? It wasn't deep enough. It wasn't deep enough because then many of them became the perpetrators of similar types, or if not worse types of oppression.
No, I'm not worried at all. I rely on God, Allah.
We have to go deeper because, say, for example, all these protests, and I do hope that they cause positive change. So let's clear that from the get-go. I hope that these protests do lead to some positive change. But I want you to let's do a self-reflective exercise when we don't look at our core values and our core principles when we try to stand up for justice. Why did many Europeans leave European countries and come to North America? Why did they do that? Why did they do that? Why did they leave their ancestral homes to come to North America? They came for escaping what? Political oppression. They came to escape economic oppression. They came to escape religious oppression. And they migrated all the way, crossed an ocean, came and settled the Wild West, pioneers, building helping building the infrastructure. Okay, all of those things that went along with that to what? Escape oppression. And then you see the language even in the Constitution, whether it's the United States Constitution or the Canadian Constitution. It shows where there's a huge emphasis on freedom, on human rights because of what they endured. But guess what? Guess what? It wasn't deep enough. It wasn't deep enough because then many of them became the perpetrators of similar types, or if not worse types of oppression, slavery, injustice, genocide. Okay, Canada was established by settler colonists. Okay, let's be honest with that. So you can't escape one oppression just to then have that cycle repeat itself. When you had many of the Jewish people who had to leave Europe, and then they ended up through the aid of the colonial powers being able to annex parts of Palestine. Look at how the Zionists treat many of the Palestinians. It's very common, very common. There's clips after clips. If you care about human beings, and if you think that it was so brutal to what happened to George Floyd, and it was brutal, and it was one of the most evil things I've ever seen in my life, that is done regularly. That is the method of operation in the occupied territories. If you look at how they treat the Palestinians and how they put their knees on their necks, you'll see many videos of them doing that and being shot in the limbs. There's actually videos of law enforcement just walking up and shooting people in the head. Just walking up, boom, shooting people like that, shooting children. Now, isn't that oppression? And that oppression wasn't right, what they endured in Europe. But now this oppression is not right as well. What about when India was able to free itself from the British, the colonial power that had controlled them and exploited their resources? They went from being colonized. Now look at the oppression that is waged upon people of lower castes, on the Muslims. Even the Muslim world, when we freed ourselves from colonizers, when the Muslim world freed itself from the colonizers, many of these governments were very harsh with their people and continue to be very, very harsh and oppressive with the people. So oppression, the cycle of oppression and injustice can and will continue if we don't look at it from a fundamental perspective, from a principled perspective. If we look at it from just a superficial, that's why I really don't like a lot of the terminology that is used. You know, when we say, okay, let's give the people the space just to talk about this identity group. Guess what? If you understand academia of how the corporate elites actually they fund a lot of these human rights movements. They want people to only lobby for their specific identity. They only want people to do that so then they can keep playing. It's like a chess game where they can keep playing people against each other. You can be oppressive to yourself. You can even be oppressive for yourself. Say you are economically oppressed. So you're in a country that's economically oppressed. There's no fairness in the economic system. Money is held within the hands of the few. You immigrate to a country. You now don't have this economic oppression. You're able to provide for your family, food, basic necessities. You're even able to get luxuries now. You can become oppressive to yourself, because then you could do dhulm al-nafsi. You could be oppressive to your own nafs and start using materialism to oppress yourself and not give the rights to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why we need to, as Muslims, we have Iman to guide us. We have the knowledge of the deen to guide us, to give us fundamental truths on how we should deal with injustice.
Do I feel that the New York police are providing enough protection, or do I have to have protection of my own? I look for protection from Allah.